and welcome back to my channel. It's time for another book review, and this week we'll be looking at Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. I've wanted to read these books for several years, but I haven't had a chance to for one reason or another. And then when the rumour mill started whirring its gears about a movie adaptation being made, I went ahead and bought the trilogy, but waited to watch the film first, because I'm one of these annoying people that if I've read a set of books and then I go and watch the movies, I tend to be really critical and sit there and nitpick, which is very frustrating for both myself and people who have the misfortune to go, you know, to any cinema with me. So I waited and I watched the film first, which I loved, but I'm really glad that I waited to read the books after I'd watched the film, because otherwise I would not have enjoyed the film. And I love Tim Burton as a director, so I really didn't want to be sat there being super critical of his kind of version of the stories. Because there are just a lot of inconsistencies between the movie and the books. The first book in this collection is called Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I'll read you the blurb from this. I won't bother with the blurbs from the other books, but I will read you the blurb from this so you've got a rough idea, if you haven't heard already about it, what it's about. A mysterious island, an abandoned orphanage, a strange collection of very peculiar photographs. It all waits to be discovered in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, an unforgettable novel that mixes fiction and photography in a thrilling reading experience. As our story opens, a horrific family tragedy sets 16-year-old Jacob journeying to a remote island off the coast of Wales, where he discovers the crumbling ruins of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. As Jacob explores its abandoned bedrooms and hallways, it becomes clear that Miss Peregrine's children were more than just peculiar. They may have been dangerous. They may have been quarantined on a deserted island for a good reason. And somehow, impossible though it seems, they may still be alive. A spine-tingling fantasy illustrated with haunting vintage photography, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children will delight adults, teens, and anyone who relishes an adventure in the shadows. As the blurb suggests, there are a lot of really beautiful images that are used within the books. I was lucky enough to get a pack of 12 that came with my box set, just to show you a few. You know, there are some really beautiful images in there. I feel that the images really bring the characters to life and bring an authenticity to the stories themselves. It makes it feel like you're reading a work of non-fiction rather than fiction, and I really quite enjoyed the element that they brought to the stories. The stories themselves, the world of Peculiardom is beautiful. It's a beautifully set world, it's very concrete, there's a lot of beautiful history, and there's some fantastic interwoven pieces that make it, you know, a trilogy that I found particularly hard to put down. You know, I sort of devoured these books over, I think it was 2 days. There are a lot of dark undertones to each book, getting darker as they go along, but I thoroughly enjoyed the kind of history aspects that were shown throughout the novels. The story itself is quite fast-paced, so I was really glad that I had all 3 books to hand, because they flow really well, they flow really easily, so I would have been very frustrated had I only had one and then had to wait for the second one, etc. So I was quite glad I had all 3 and then could just, you know, read them one after the other after the other. If I had anything negative to say about the books, it would be that I feel that whilst there was a lot of background history on, you know, the kind of culture and the world, etc., I don't feel that there was enough done to some of the characters. There's quite a lot of characters that I dub as face characters, where you really get a name and a kind of vague description of them, but you don't really get to know a lot about them, and I feel that so much more could have been put into some of the characters. Even with the main characters, you only really get a kind of depth to them in the last book. You kind of only get to have a little taster of their history, of how they became who they are, and I feel like I could have, you know, I would have preferred to have a little bit more about some of the characters. I feel that they were missing that little bit of background. You kind of got you know, the basis of who they were. You kind of understand a little bit about their quirks, etc., but you never knew how they got to where they are and what made them who they are. And I feel that that could have really, really added to the story and really made the book something phenomenal. Overall though, it is a great story. It's a great story of love, of loyalty, of overcoming some extremely hard obstacles, some, you know, some really quite heartbreaking moments. There's a lot of self-doubt from not just one but several of the characters, and you know, there is a lot of struggle. It's a very dark, twisting, beautiful story. It's a must-have if you yourself have ever felt out of place, if you have ever felt slightly peculiar, if you feel that you are an oddity in amongst, you know, a sea of normal people. I definitely think it's a book that will kind of hit home for you. It's a wonderful escape into a world where there are a lot of, you know, sort of not endless possibilities, but a lot of very different possibilities for people who aren't the same as everyone else. If you love dark fantasies with a bit of a kind of morbid undertone that is fast-paced and thrilling, then I would definitely recommend this series to you. I myself would rate Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children at an 8 out of 10. It is a fantastic set of books. They're not overly big, so you can finish them quite quickly, but it does have some really beautiful kind of moments in it. It's very different. It's a very different style of book to anything that I myself have read. I love that the images give it a more realistic feel, and overall I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just really wish there'd been a little bit more background on some of the characters so that you could really feel a lot more for them. If a book doesn't make me cry, I tend to kind of question it a little bit, because you need to be able to feel the characters, you need to be able to feel what they're going through, you need to be able to empathise with them, and I struggled a little bit with this, because I feel that, you know, a lot of the characters could have done with a bit more in-depth to them. But it is a great series and I did thoroughly enjoy it. I just honestly think that a little bit more could have been done with the characters themselves. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you've enjoyed this video despite my croaky voice and slightly cold-induced kind of tones. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. I hopefully will be able to do another one very soon. If you want to see more from me, please hit that subscribe button, but make sure that you hit the notification button as well, otherwise you won't get notified when I upload. Whatever you're doing for the rest of the week, I hope you have a fantastic one, and until next time, bye.